Take it there? Who gon' take it there? Who gon' take it there? Who gon' take it there? Electricity, 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 electricity. You know what's in the air. 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 It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility.
So Bernie Sanders and AOC did a rally on Saturday on Los Angeles. They did a couple rallies over this weekend, and it was an enormous rally. 36,000 people came out in Los Angeles to see them, which, you know, Los Angeles is obviously a heavily left-leaning place with, you know, one of the biggest populations in the country. So that is a place where they would draw a huge crowd, not exactly a place where they're making a giant dent electorally or anything. However, the point of these rallies seems to be to encourage people to get involved, including running. And so they seem to be kind of casting away with the idea, at least for the most part, that like they are the leaders who are going to get into power and enact change. You know, maybe AOC has some type of future to that effect or whatever. But more so, I think they're recognizing that all of these people that they're getting activated just need to take up the reins of politics themselves instead of wanting to vote for somebody who's going to solve all the problems. And so it's both a good strategy in terms of electoralism to get as many people, as many more left-wing people into local and national House and Senate seats and other things of that nature, city councils and all that. But it also, you know, is kind of more of, I don't want to say passing the buck because that's too harsh, but it's like, it's more of saying like, you know, I think Obama did this quite a lot, and he even rehashed it when he was campaigning for Kamala Harris. I heard this from Barack Obama and Michelle Obama. And it was something that he did so often during his presidency, especially after he like lost in the midterms and was trying to regain some of that electoral power back. You know, he was always saying like, it's not about me, it's about you, it's about what you do, you guys got to vote, you guys got to get out there, which is true. And Obama, despite the fact that he kind of squandered any mandate or opportunity for real change that he had, he was a community organizer. That was his background, so he understands the value of that, of not saying like, I'm gonna fix this for you, but if all of us get involved, then we can overwhelm the problems that we are fighting against. However, that was what Obama did instead of rising to the moment of the scorched earth policies that we were getting from Mitch McConnell and the rest of the Republican Party at the time. And because of that, Republicans made gains politically and electorally during that time, while Obama's, you know, successes were modest. He had a very stable presidency, but did he deliver on the change that he promised to people? No. We're still fighting about healthcare 10 years later. We are still struggling to have any type of like actual democratic system. Obama's policies did nothing to even out the oligarchic, you know, society that was taking place under his reign, for sure. And you know, so I think we're kind of at a moment like that again, where the Republicans have sort of done nothing but gain throughout all this time, because, you know, I'm not sure exactly why, because they're able to capitalize on the frustrations with the powers that be, because they've been able to characterize themselves as the underdogs who are out of power, and if you just let us into power, we're going to shake things up and fix everything. But either way, it's like they go scorched earth in a way that Democrats have never mounted any kind of successful counterpoint to. And Bernie Sanders was sort of the offer from the left-wing world, the left of center world, to say this is a counter to the increasingly fascist-friendly or neoliberal politics of the United States. And, this is the solution to something like Trump. The timing of Bernie Sanders was perfect in his first run because he ran as a matter of urgency because he saw what was happening, not just with Donald Trump winning the Republican primary, but with the nature of the way the country was taking shape in general. He's been talking about oligarchy for his entire life. And so it's not a surprise that he's made that the center of this, series of rallies that he's doing, despite the fact that people thought oligarchy might be slightly too wonkish of language or something like that. But it seems to be resonating with people. And there are many, many, many thousands of people throughout this entire country that are well aware of what oligarchy is and are waiting for someone to deliver the message that we're going to fight against that, and somebody with real credibility. And so that's what Bernie Sanders has that any other leader is struggling to find. Tim Walz is solid on the rhetoric, I think, but maybe not quite as aggressive as is necessary. His performance on the debate stage, I mean, how does JD Vance look better on a debate stage than you? That's absurd to me. And I'm not saying that that's like my personal opinion, but I think the fact that was able to resonate conceptually at all is, it's not a great indication of his political skills under pressure. He's great at speaking, and he's great at communicating in a way that we don't really hear from any other Democrats. But is he able to, really fight these people? Is any Democrat able to fight these people the way we need? We've never seen Bernie Sanders go up against a Trump-like figure. And one thing that I noticed at this rally, AOC was a great speaker. And she did great, and she talked a lot about her experience in Congress, how normal it is to everybody in Congress that the powers that be and the sources of cash donations are kind of the ones who run the show, and that's how things are expected to be. And her bucking that system, even in the slightest bit, even just by not taking that money, is kind of offensive to them, and it's a threat to power. And I think what she's realizing there is that the power in Congress of big money is so entrenched that the people there don't even see it all the time. They don't even get that that's what's happening. They allow themselves to forget that all of these machinations are taking place because of the money. And that's where you get a sort of idealist like Biden who says, look, we just got to take each other in good faith, and we got to bring the Republicans back to the table and talk. And it's like, it's idealistic in the worst way, where it's not idealistic in terms of what's possible. It's idealistic in terms of what this current system that we have is capable of producing in terms of positive results. And I think that is a hopeless form of idealism. And I think AOC has become a little bit guilty of that same thing, where I think she also has run up against this issue over and over and over and over again, that the big money runs the show, and that you can't really do anything about it except try to disrupt the process. And so she knew that coming into office, that disrupting the process was the only way to go. And then she decided that being more strategic within the Democratic Party was, the only way to make any progress. But I think that path has also blinded her in certain moments to the fact that she was also being used by the same system that is using the rest of these representatives. And so, but despite that fact, she still has never taken corporate money or PAC money. And she bragged about that on that stage. And she said that, that is the counter to the problem that we're seeing in Congress. That is what she has that other representatives don't have. And it's not possible without all of the people that support her. And she's very right that is the model for a type of politician that does not just do all of the same exact things that we see every politician do, whether it's acquiescing to exactly what Israel wants, clamping down on free speech that criticizes Israel or the United States, dropping bombs in various places in the Middle East, All of these things are things that like no president in our lifetime has challenged meaningfully. And there's been quite a few in my lifetime, not that many, but enough that somebody could have interrupted this process, and none of them did. But aside from that, I mean, I think AOC is a powerful communicator, and when she really started breaking down the details of her experience in Congress and sort of what we're up against from her perspective, she did a great job of articulating that. But I did notice that Bernie is quite a powerful speaker. More so than Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And Bernie just has that aspect in a way that I think is kind of solely responsible for how well he has traveled and resonated, how much more he has resonated. And AOC resonates quite a bit, but it's in a different way. She's more detail-oriented, and she's great at providing the counter narrative and taking what's going on and repackaging it in a way that people can understand and engage with and get excited about. But she has not proven to be great at developing a narrative and sticking to that narrative and really just driving forward. And that's what Bernie is great at. And I noticed in the speech, I was quite far away. So I was depending on the, amplification that they had. And AOC's voice did not travel that well through that. But Bernie's did. And it wasn't just that I could hear him, it's that you can hear the nuances in his voice, the anger, the focus. And I really felt that, and it made me realize that that's part of what always made him such an inspiring candidate. And by the way, it's what people like about Trump too. Trump's voice travels in that same way when he does these rallies. That's why he's very, very successfully able to do the rallies that he does. And I think Bernie's the same way. And so in looking for whoever the heir to the throne is when it comes to Bernie, not to use a slightly tasteless turn of phrase there, but I think that's a big part of what we need to look for. Like AOC's great, Tim Walz is great, but I don't see their voices traveling in the same way with the simplicity and the just devastating focus and precision that Bernie does. And it's when you see it in person, that really resonates in a palpable way. And it made me a little sad. It made me feel like, unfortunately, we're in the timeline where we're probably never going to see that man be president. It's not impossible at this point, but he's old and he doesn't seem to be naive or cocky enough like Biden to think that he can or wants to run as president as an old man and win. So, we gotta find somebody else. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that are cynical about this type of exercise or encouraging people towards electoralism, and people are being sort of funneled back into a Democratic Party or an electoral process that doesn't serve them, and that is true. And I think that was probably my biggest problem with the content of the message there, is that you had a lot of people there, you had a big audience and a lot of excitement, and I didn't hear that much clarity about what the plan is. And that's a problem, because we need a plan, and there's no reason we can't have a plan. It's just that it kind of gets back to the idea of people being cynical about electoralism. It's like whatever way you go, a decent portion of the coalition that we've got here is turned off by it, whether it's electoralism or revolution or whatever it is. There's not a consensus about what we need. And so the only thing that's going to solve that problem is like a really powerful plan that, is going to appeal to people on either side of that divide. And that also transcends to electoral politics or just American politics at a larger level too, where presenting a plan and something palpable that can be communicated to people, that wide swaths of people can say, well, I agree with that, and I agree with that with this methodology, then that's going to be the winning strategy. And unfortunately, Trump and the Republicans are the one who have mounted that, despite how horrific and completely destabilizing in the worst way Project 2025 is, by putting that plan together and using Trump as the mouthpiece for it, even when they denied that that's what they were doing, they've successfully gotten enough of the electorate on board with this Project 2025 idea that they've made a lot of progress even so far. And, maybe there will be some serious lashback to that at some point, but right now I'm not seeing it. And so I think when it comes to the electoralism or not debate, I think that it's necessary. I think that if we abandon electoralism completely and don't consider it when it comes to our strategizing, we are just going to see right now that is the method of taking power in this country. And there doesn't seem to be a path towards doing that through revolution. I've proposed stuff about a general strike, and I just don't see any other way that we are going to meaningfully take back power in this country toward any type of good politic. And I've mentioned that, general strikes are going to be the kind of thing that forces the Republican Party and Donald Trump to acquiesce because they understand leverage. Donald Trump understands leverage, and he understands that if the entire workforce halts or even threatens to halt in a credible way, then he has no choice but to capitulate in a way that a more ideologically driven Republican might be even less willing to do than Trump. Trump is less tethered to Republican ideology and more tethered to this kind of like deal-making image that, if labor mounted a serious counteroffensive to the Trump administration and to Trump's policies, I think Trump would see relatively quickly that he has no choice. So I would have loved to see Bernie and AOC on stage talking about that. Maybe they don't feel like that's their, the strongest place for them to be applying their message, or that there are better people to be communicating that message, or maybe they don't think that that's the right idea. But what it is it's a strategy, and it's palpable. And so, whether we go for electoralism or not, whether that's your thing or whether you prefer to pursue a strictly in the streets style of political change, I think labor is the only meaningful path towards subverting the neo-fascist and neoliberal order of this country. And if we completely ignore electoral politics, then we're probably ceding that power away to neo-fascists and neoliberals forever. I mean, they're the ones who run the game right now. And I think through labor and hopefully through the type of strategizing that we're seeing from Bernie and AOC, we can start to take enough ground back electorally that there will be more friendliness towards ideas like a general strike, labor action, consumer action, etc., to the point that those things could gain real momentum. Because I don't think we're going to get to the point of a real general strike without more representatives that are on board with that. But Sean Fain wants there to be a general strike in May of 2028. That's certainly enough time to plan for that. And I think Sean Fain of the UAW probably thinks that is enough time to continue to adapt to the political situation and build enough power necessary for a general strike that there's enough flexibility with the amount of time that creates. But the downside is that Trump and his people are going to do an enormous amount of damage to the country in the meantime. So I think really the only way to stop that short term is by doing well in the midterms. And so whether you're a revolution person or not, electoralism is an important part of the strategy. You can personally ignore that if you want, but if all of us as a complete left-wing bloc ignore electoralism, we are even more fucked than we already are right now. So that's just my 2 cents. I want people to consider that.